The FSU shootings, all the FSU shooting, all the new details that came out about that. It's never good when the majority of the things that we can talk about is all the death and destruction that's happening, especially in schools with kids or college students, just violence in general that's happening around the world nowadays. Seems like it's more and more of it, but we got to talk about it. We got to break down what's happening. We got to understand what's happening, and we got to do better for ourselves and for the future kids of this world that's going to come up. But let's get into the new details, all the new details that came. Let's get right into it.
All right, the video you see on the screen takes us back to Tallahassee, Florida. Florida State University, the site of another mass shooting in the United States. And once again, we see people out there expressing their grief, embracing each other, and bringing flowers to the scene of violence to remember the victims. Today's mood, a somber contrast to the chaos of yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Video of students running away from campus moments after a gunman opened fire and killed 2. 6 others rushed to the hospital, including the suspect. Police identified that suspect as 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner.
Let's go back a little bit. Just let's look at his face. What could be going through the mind of someone who would shoot up a college? We never know. Well, let's keep going.
Identified that suspect as 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, an FSU student and the stepson of a sheriff's deputy of Tallahassee's home county. Authorities said the weapon he used in the shooting was his stepmother's former service weapon, which she now apparently owns as a personal handgun. Earlier today, CBS News' Gayle King spoke to a Florida State University student who was on campus yesterday during that shooting, who was also a survivor of the Parkland shooting back in 2018. In that case, 17 people died. Here's a little bit of that interview.
I would imagine, Stephanie, that you never thought that this could happen to you again.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought it would happen to me for the first time. And here we are, and unfortunately, this is America for you. These actually were the doors that I came out of yesterday. We had the music playing pretty loudly, so unfortunately, we didn't hear anything, which we were lucky that some of my students looked out of the glass doors and saw everybody.
Being a part or witnessing 2 deadly shootings, I can't imagine what is going through your mind. There's first time it happens, but then the second, geez, I don't know if it's the area. I don't know. Jesus, this says the 2018 Parkland shooting. Jesus, if it's the area, I got to move away from the area. This is being a part of 2 is outrageous. 1 is already too much, but being a part of 2 of them, Jesus.
Everybody running, and I didn't see that, so I'd asked them what was going on, and when they said that everyone ran, I came out from behind the desk and I looked, and I saw crickets and I saw belongings left behind, and unfortunately, due to my previous experience, I knew what that meant, and before I knew exactly what was going on, I just started to direct everybody into the back room to safety until I got further information, but I had a feeling that it was an active shooter situation before I even heard.
So from Gayle King's interview to reporters with our CBS partner in Detroit, who spoke to another student from FSU, another similar theme. He also survived the 2023 shooting at Michigan State University. Here's a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think this time it was less surprising, but I think the fear was a little more immediate this time around. I talked to other undergrads who survived school shootings. And, you know, I think you go to any major.
Why is there so many people going through school shootings? That is crazy. That should not be. Oh, I've been through 3 school. No, that shouldn't. God.
R1 university like this, you're going to run into people who have been in that situation. It just happened, to me, in college both times.
Voices coming out of that violence. Let's bring in CBS News senior coordinating producer Anna Schechter, who's been following this story from the moment that we broke it yesterday on CBS News 24/7 at this very time. Anna, you're learning more today about the victims.
That's right. We have just learned the identity of 57-year-old Roberto Morales. He is one of the two people that were shot and killed by the suspect yesterday on campus. He worked for a company that provided catering services. His brother posted on social media that he was a husband and father to a daughter. He is obviously grieving, and the company that Morales worked for put out a statement that they are heartbroken. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing more. There is another person who passed away. We learned that yesterday. We still are waiting on any information about that individual. And the 6 who were injured have been improving, the hospital tells us. But we're still waiting on more information about all of them being released from the hospital. That has not yet happened.
So
Through all this, we need to make sure that we keep the victims, their family, everybody who was there, all that trauma. We need to keep everybody in our prayers. It's going to be a lot of trauma to deal with. People are going to need to make sure they get therapy and they deal with everything so they can get back to some kind of normal life. It's going to be very hard, especially for the family who has lost people who are injured, constantly thinking about that. But you have to go through your process, grieve, and you got to put one foot in front of the other and just walk forward. Let's keep going into this.
Sobering to see the police tape and now the flowers once again in our country. Anna, the news of just where this gun came from caused you to dig a little bit deeper and look at Florida's gun laws. What did you learn?
Well, Florida has pretty loose gun laws, and we knew that before this morning. But interestingly, recently, Florida has there's been a push in the state to actually roll back a law that was enacted after the Parkland shooting that made it more difficult for young people to purchase firearms. That does not apply in this case because the suspect obtained the handgun that he used to shoot all the victims with from his stepmom, who he lived with. He was known as her son. She referred to him as her son, but she was his stepmom. She is his stepmother. She's a sheriff's deputy of 18 years. This was her department-issued firearm that was retired, and so she purchased it. So it was in her own personal possession. It belonged to her personally when she was issued a new handgun by the department. And so we are still trying to find out if he took it without her knowledge. Did she give it to him? Exactly what happened that led to him in his mental state.
Now, I highly doubt that the mother would have given her son the handgun. But we cannot rule anything out during an investigation. Now, she mentioned gun laws, very loose gun laws. And you can't make this up to gun laws. If a person is going to commit a crime, they will find a way to get a gun. There are states that have very strict gun laws and also have very high crime with guns. You can't chalk it up to the gun laws. It's all about the individual person. Let's keep getting into it.
Being able to take the gun, go to the university campus, and carry out this act. We're also still looking at motive. We're still looking at kind of what led to this downward spiral that led to him actually carrying out the act. Reed?
Yeah, where was his mind to commit such violence as police have alleged? So, Anna, let's listen to part of an interview between our Major Garrett and the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, David Hogg. For our viewers who don't remember, Mr. Hogg survived the deadly 2018 Parkland, Florida high school shooting. Let's listen.
I'm thinking about my friends that are at FSU. A lot of the young people who worked with us in March for Our Lives that I had to text and say, hey, are you okay? And thankfully, the friends that I texted are okay. But there's a lot of students from Parkland at FSU. And what really bothers me here is that in Florida, we worked in a bipartisan manner to pass reforms after Parkland. We passed a red flag law that has been used over 19,000 times to disarm people that are risk themselves and others. And no law is perfect by any means, clearly, but we still have so much more work to do.
David led.
Like I said, you can pass all the laws you want, but someone who wants to commit a crime is going to find a way to get a gun. I don't know what we should do, but all I know I can do is I can protect myself and my families, get trained on how to protect yourself, and thank God every day that something didn't jump off. Jesus.
So many students to march in the weeks and months after that, and also led efforts where that legislation is concerned. You know, in the weeks after the 2018 Stoneman Douglas school shooting, to his point, Florida passed those wide-ranging gun control legislative items. But now there's a renewed push, we understand, Anna, to cut one of the restrictions that came out of that law. What can you tell us?
That's exactly right. In fact, it even passed in the House, the Florida State House, that would repeal the sort of regulations barring young people under the age of 21 from purchasing both handguns and long guns. That it did not pass in the Senate, but you have seen this momentum across the country, really, and specifically in the state of Florida, to repeal and pull back gun laws that had been enacted, particularly during the Biden administration and even in prior administrations, to try to create a safer environment on campuses across the country and just in other places where people gather. Reed?
Talking laws while those who grieve gather today, mindful of those lost and those who are still recovering in hospital. Anna Schechter, CBS News senior coordinating producer, we thank you for that information. Well, President Donald Trump offered condolences and spoke briefly about the shooting, but when asked if he would take a look at gun laws in light of the violence yesterday, here's what he had to say. He said his job is to protect the Second Amendment. Watch.
Look, I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it. And these things are terrible, but the gun doesn't do the shooting. The people do. It's, you know, a phrase that's used probably too often. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment, among many other things, and I will always protect the Second Amendment.
For more on
now, like I said, I think Trump is right. The gun doesn't do the shooting. The people who want to do this will find a way to get a gun. Now, should there be more police presence? Should there be... I don't know what there should be, but I don't think making it harder for law-abiding citizens to get the guns when they need them and have the ability to use them in times of distress or times of when your life is in danger, making it harder is not the option. We cannot take away the guns from the people who truly need to be able to use the guns. Now, it's definitely going to mean that people who want to do bad things are going to get the guns. We got to find a way to stop that. Now, we're going to go to this next video dealing with the Florida State shooting. And the police finally break down the timeline of what everything happened. So let's get into that right now.
And lo and behold, we just did in this press release from the Tallahassee Police Department. What I'm going to do right now is read it in full here. They also notified us on their social media channels saying the Tallahassee Police Department provides a timeline of events following yesterday's FSU active shooter incident. So, like I said, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to read the entire thing. We're going to put up some images from yesterday from the scene there of the crime on campus, which is still an active crime scene. So this goes as follows from the Tallahassee police providing this, that on April 17th, just before noon, members of the Florida State University Police Department, along with the Tallahassee Police Department, responded to reports of an active shooting incident unfolding on FSU's campus. A multi-agency response at the local, state, and federal level immediately ensued. The entire incident was over in less than 5 minutes. Despite the quick response, the suspect was able to injure 8 people and impact the lives of hundreds of students, faculty, staff, first responders, and residents of this community through his actions. Now, Chief Lawrence Ravel of the Tallahassee Police Department says, quote, "What we saw on April 17th was an extraordinary example of teamwork and professionalism in the face of a horrific event." He says, "From the moment the call came in, agencies across our region came together seamlessly, sharing information and deploying resources with public safety the top priority." He says this kind of response doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of training, partnerships, and a shared commitment to protecting our community. Now, what they released is a timeline of events, and I'm going to read it now in this timeline. So they say at approximately 11 a.m., the suspect, Phoenix Eichner, arrives at an FSU parking garage. He stays in the area for an hour, moving in and out of the vehicle. At 11:51 a.m., Eichner leaves the parking garage. Now, between 11:56 and 11:57, the first shot is fired. Eichner walks in and out of buildings and green spaces, firing a handgun. By 11:58 a.m., multiple 911 calls report a male actively shooting on campus, simultaneous to a police response by nearby officers. At 12 p.m. at noon, the suspect is shot by responding officers and taken into custody. So that was a very brief timeline provided by the Tallahassee Police Department just minutes ago. And as you can see, this whole thing was wrapped up in about an hour. The scene was secure, but the suspect there got on campus around 11 in the morning. And by noon, the suspect was shot by officers responding and taken into custody. So,
they said he didn't get out of his car until what, 11:51, and was shot by 12. It's a good response time, but police are never going to be faster than the suspect when he starts doing stuff. All we can do is increase police presence, get more people to work for the police. I definitely do not think you should defund the police. Police do an amazing job. So, there are some bad police, but there's some bad type of in any kind of job. You can't just blame it. Can't take it out on the whole police who do so much to protect us. But let's finish up this video.
Just shows you the extraordinary efforts taken by law enforcement to get on the scene to neutralize the threat there. In the meantime, though, remember, we just showed you this hour that live press conference from the surgeon team at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. This was the summary there provided by Fox 35 Orlando, you see there. 6 were injured in the shooting. The gunshot wounds treated on torso, chest, abdomen, and face. So a number of gunshot injuries for these victims all over their bodies, as you can see. 3 were taken to the operating room right upon arrival.
All right, let's be happy that all the victims who survived are in stable condition. But that is the updates on the FSU shooting. Remember, like and subscribe. We're going to be going through any new information that comes out about this and everything else. Let's just remember to keep all the family, the students, and everyone in our prayers for everything that they're going through right now. The next thing we're going to be talking about, let's see, the next thing we're going to be talking, matter of fact, we got one more video we're going to look at for the FSU stuff. A survivor talks about 23-year-old FSU survivor talks about how she needed to play dead after being shot. It's horrible to listen. It's horrible to think about, but we have to listen to it so we can understand everything that's going through it. Let's get right into it.
We begin on this Good Friday with a solemn memorial service on the campus of Florida State University. Thousands turned out to honor the 2 people who were killed and 6 others wounded in yesterday's mass shooting. Mourners hugged and held flowers and candles in somber tribute.
We've learned the men killed were 45-year-old Tiru Chaba, a father and executive for the campus food vendor, and 57-year-old Robert Morales, a high school football.
Like I said, remember these people and keep their names in our hearts while we pray for their family. No one deserves to go through this. Let's keep going.
Coach who worked in the school's dining services department.
Officials say that 20-year-old accused gunman wounded by police will be in the hospital for some time before he is formally charged.
Skylar Henry led off our coverage last night, and he's back on campus tonight. Skylar?
John, Maurice, good evening to the both of you. After speaking to one of the students on campus, she told me that she was heartbroken but happy to see that the students and faculty here at Florida State University were coming together. Happening behind me, hundreds of those who were at that afternoon vigil are here paying their respects at a makeshift memorial in the heart of campus. It's a community coming together, trying to figure out exactly why this happened. And tonight, for the first time, we're hearing from one of the victims.
We met 23-year-old Madison Askins in her hospital bed. The graduate student was among those wounded in yesterday's attack at Florida State University.
The minute I got shot, I remember my parents telling me, I just need to play dead. So I released all the muscles in my body. I closed my eyes. I held my breath. I did everything I could to look like I was dead because I didn't want him to shoot me again, God forbid it.
While laying on the ground.
It's crazy that that's something we need to teach our kids, to play dead after being shot at school. Jesus.
Askins said the shooter was so close she could hear him talking to himself while reloading his gun.
It was just calm. Like it was just it literally said, yeah, keep running.
Eventually, police showed up and were able to put pressure on her wound.
The minute that lovely officer touched me, was the minute I opened my eyes.
Askins is one of 5 people hospitalized after 20-year-old FSU student Phoenix Eichner opened fire Thursday. 2 people were killed.
Go, 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 run!
Anne-Marie Campbell was inside the school's student union when shots rang out. She started to run, but in the wrong direction.
As I was running, I look over and I see a guy holding a gun.
You say you saw him with the gun?
Yes, I did.
Did you see his face?
I saw that he was pale, he had dark brown hair. At that point, I was like, oh, I'm within 10 feet of a person with a gun.
Campbell barricaded herself inside a nearby building. She hid in a closet with other students for 30 minutes until the police came.
I just did my best to get to shelter, and then once I was in shelter, to keep everyone together, safe, hidden, quiet.
Skylar, we could really feel the intensity there of the moment. Police are saying the shooter used his mother's old service weapon. So we have any idea what's going on with her?
Yeah, the Leon County Sheriff's Office, Maurice, says that Jessica Eichner, an 18-year veteran with the Sheriff's Office, serving
18 years on the force
as a sheriff's deputy, requested to be placed on personal leave. They are conducting their own internal investigation. As of now, they say that no violations have taken place as it relates to how she stored or whether she perhaps gave that service weapon to Phoenix.
That is crazy. Jesus, that's crazy. I'm going to say this very often, but we need to make sure we keep the victims who died during this tragedy in our minds. Let me go ahead and pull up their faces one more time. let's keep these people in our mind and pray for their family. Let's pray for their family. I'm going to say this a lot. No one should have to be going through this. No one. But now that is it for the FSU shooting. We're going to keep going, finding new information, learning more, and we're going to keep everyone updated on what is happening. All right, everybody, remember this is AC Reviews the Word. Remember to like and subscribe.